much.
How does that affect you emotionally when you see the aging of the hair or the skin or the wrinkles?
Not much, actually. You know, it's weird. Like I'm pretty vain and like all that stuff. Like I'm into that. Like it should affect me more. Here's the punchline. It's like, the fuck are you gonna do about it?
Right.
Like, I guess I can debate hair implants, which once in a weird mood, like when I see like an angle from like a Babin video or D-Rock, like I'm like, oh shit, my hair's going, like I've got 18 to 36 months before I have to shave my head. Like it's just going enough back here. But then I'm always like, or should I like get an afro? Like, should I just get like a huge implant like situation like Matthew McConaughey or whatever? I'm sure he did something. Like, you know, or like Jeremy Piven. Like you look at the old, or Elon Musk. Like you look at some of that content, you're like,
there's something.
Elon, you didn't just magically grow hair. Like,
exactly.
Like, so I may do, so if anybody's listening who does that shit really well, I could be sold. I could, you know, looking at Nick's hair, like I could rock some long ass fucking hair,
exactly.
You know, like one last rodeo before I'm finished.
Does any of that affect you though, in terms of like your confidence in business?
No, not in, you know, that's what's so great about business. You know, I'm not an Instagram model, I'm not an actor, I'm not looked at or liked, or my, you know, return on investment has nothing to do with my physical appearance. So what's great about being a business person, it's a mind game and an execution game. I also think that's why a lot of entrepreneurs and business people don't maybe take care of themselves as much as they should and things of that nature. Mm-hmm. No, I think it's more of just like being a guy or being somebody that's transitioning into their early 40s, and you kind of know what the next chapters look like. You know, I think you think about it much more from like, oh, I'm getting older, or like mortality. No, I don't feel less confident because of my physical, because I never also, unlike you, who's like a physical specimen, there was never a time in my life that I ever like looked at my looks or physical status as a self-esteem builder.
Right.
Where
you looked at results in your business.
Yeah, to me, I was cool, even though nobody else thought I was cool, because I made $4,000 selling 8,000 Ken Griffey Jr. rookie cards this weekend in the Phillipsburg Mall. And so for me, it's interesting. I had so much self-esteem around business results when that was not a thing. Now that's a thing. It's really interesting to get these DMs. I love the 15-year-old guys that slide into my DM and telling me stories of like why they look up to me, because it really is actually very funny. The entrepreneur is cool now. And so like they're, you know, when you're a 15-year-old guy, you want a girlfriend, you want to be popular. And like I look at their photos, and these are not like 15-year-old Lewis's, these are like some nerdy ass kids, but they've got like ridiculously like cool girlfriends. And I'm like, oh, this entrepreneur thing has really hit high school. Like this is real now. Like, wow, if you're a cryptocurrency millionaire, like, you know, as a kid, like, you know, like it's really fun for me that the thing I love the most, entrepreneurship, has become cool. That boggled, like, I know that somebody who's listening to me who's over 40 and loves entrepreneurship the way I do, they also know what I'm saying, and that anybody under 30 has no idea of how I'm actually describing it. And then there's that middle, 30 to 40, which is in between. But if you're over 40, you know that when you were in high school, being a businessman or woman had zero street cred. Zero. 0.00.
Right.
Zero.
Yeah.
Being, just for the kids that are listening, I know there's a lot, like being an awesome violinist right now. That's not gonna necessarily crush it in the halls of like Draymond High. That was equally the same thing that I was going through, which was nobody gave a fuck that I was making $10,000 like at a flea market in a weekend. That meant zero status, like having like a starter jacket.
Or the music you were listening to, or the jeans you were wearing.
Correct, or like scoring 13 for the team that night, or you know, like being in a band, like, you know, the cliche move, like all the guys did. Like there was 97, or being good at skateboard, like there was 9,000 other things, and it's crazy to think, right? Because money has always been the cliche thing, like, you know, that has helped like some people close the gap of coolness.
Right, but not in high school.
Not in high school, and definitely not in 1990 to 1994.
Now if you have 50,000 followers on Instagram in high school, you're like the hottest thing.
Or, I mean, like, talk about like society wrapped up in vanity, like of social. If you are a high school guy who's a nerd, but you get a blue check from Instagram, your life changed.
Changed. You get any girl you want.
The amount of people that send me things like, I will rip my arm off if you can help me get verified on Instagram. Like, literally things like, I will sell you my children if you get me verified on, like, I will give you my home.
It's crazy.
And live in a cardboard box. And I'm just like, this is the saddest shit ever. And a lot of my content in the last 6 months has been like, please do not get wrapped up in likes and, you know, your rank in the podcast list or checks. Like, that is such a death game. You will lose that game. You will start pandering to those results versus actual results.
By creating a great product consistently.
New York Times bestseller list.
Yeah.
I don't pander to that. I don't want to hire the companies that get me on the list. I want to sell more books.
Yeah.
That's the KPI. Impact more people. That's even the bigger KPI. But look, I mean, the world has always traded on, I mean, you know, do you know how sad at this point I am when I'm on these 30, well, I'm not 30, excuse me, like top 40 influencers or 50 under 50 now, which is the only thing I can.
How old are you now?
42.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think that, you know, I hate it because my feed gets filled up with like congratulations or the other people that are on it trying to get me into a conversation. Not because I kudos to them, because I was the most pumped too when I was like 10 most important people in the wine business under 40. Like, amazing. I get it. But it's, as you get older, you realize how those awards or those like just completely arbitrary things of like an editor liked one of your podcasts and decided, and we all get excited.
Yeah.
Like 6 best podcasts to listen in 2018. You want to be a part of that. You want awareness. Here's what I would say. We've overcorrected a lot of people into caring about that more than the actual results. And so we care more about the facade than we care more about like, look how nice my room, like this, we're in a beautiful room right now, right? You've really done a nice job with this.
Yeah.
I like how you put like the more important people on their own like wall over here. That's
well, they were just bigger photos.
No,
so we had
no,
to place
you
it.
made them bigger. I know you. But here's what's interesting to me. What's interesting is if the concrete and steel under this building is shit, well, this whole thing falls. It didn't matter that you put some like tree.
How pretty it is, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think right now, too many entrepreneurs and personalities and people, 98% of the people that are listening to this podcast right now are caring about the decorations and the curtains and the painting in the room, not the steel and the concrete holding up the room. And I think that that's an important conversation to be had. And I think a lot of what makes me happy and worked for me has been the steel and the concrete.
When you were in high school, college, and in your 20s, and you were dating,
Yes.
I don't think you ever talked about this, and it just came up for me now.
Yeah.
Were you driven by dating a lot of girls, or were you trying to like impress them through the business you were building in the wine space?
You know what's funny? Keep going.
And did business get better for you when you got married and started having kids, or did it hurt you? You know, did it help?
That's a great question. I was so one-track minded in my 20s, from 15 to 25, 15 to 27. From 15 to 27, in 12 prime years where a boy, then a young man, cares about dating and hooking up and having a girlfriend, the level of me giving a fuck about that was stunningly low.
Really? Did you have a bunch of girlfriends or no?
In high school, not at all. In college, I had girlfriends. But from like my junior year of college until I got married, I pretty much always had a girlfriend except when we would break up and I would have a couple of months in between. But it was literally like because I almost weirdly thought I had to. And because look, I mean, you'd like to have a companion, fine. But like my business was more important than my girlfriend by a magnitude of 1,000 to 1.
Right.
In those 5 relationships I had in between my first serious girlfriend in college and marrying my wife. My wife is such an enabler of my entrepreneurship.
She wants you to go out and do what you want, right?
She came in eyes wide open and is so independent and wants to run the household and the kids the way she wants to. She wants to be
her business.
Dictator and CEO of our home life, that she likes that we're in a divide and conquer dynamic. Like Lizzie's aspiration is not to co-parent. She doesn't want my 2 cents. She'll take it once in a while, but she wants me supporting her on her vision and execution, and I have empathy for that because that's what I want on what I do for a living. And so we're a good pair. I think if you have somebody, no entrepreneur can be successful with somebody who is not independent. None. There's no entrepreneur.
Partner.
That's right.
Yeah.
No Sally, if her husband Rick is not independent and can't keep himself busy and isn't about his life, she can't do what she needs to do because he's going to be pulling her at all times and making her feel guilty for taking that extra business trip, for looking at the phone during dinner. And so you need, if you're a true bred entrepreneur, an obsessed entrepreneur, and what I mean by that is, I believe, I know your audience, I know mine, I believe 87% of the people listening right now are in it for the money. They're in it for the short term, get the money, go on the nice vacations, right? Buy the nice car. If you're part of the 13% that I'm a part of, which is you would die tomorrow if somebody said you couldn't play. I would much rather make $100,000 a year, and I proved this. This is what I did in my, from 22 to 34, I made $150, $130, $167, $49,000 a year building my dad's business for him. I never got upset that I had no equity. I don't have resentment that I left that business at 34 with nothing. Even when people say to me, don't listen to Gary, his daddy put him on or gave him the business, when I know the true story is, I didn't get anything. I just built a monster business for my dad in my best years of my youth and then left and started over, right? I mean, VaynerMedia started with me getting a client to pay, because I had no money to pay me and AJ or anybody else. I had no money.
Yeah.
And
I was there in the beginning. I went to your first office when it was 4 of you and a ping pong table.
That's right. And you crushed me in ping pong. I was pissed. Lewis is awfully good at sports. It really makes me upset.
Yeah. Well, when you're a lonely kid your whole life and you have all day to just hit a ball
and you're
against a
shaped
wall.
like an Adonis. Yeah, that part too. Anyway, nonetheless, for the 13% who are listening, they get it, which is like, look, no question. I think a lot of people are like bullshit if they don't know me, but if you know me, make $14 million a year, right? And not be able to play anymore, passive income. Make $200,000 a year and get able to play, I'm not even close. It's $200,000 in play. I'll suffocate.
You mean
I'm like a fish out of water if I'm not building a business. Every moment of my life since fucking 1987 has been unbelievably passionately 98% of my human energy against the notion of either my family or building the business that's in my hands at the time. Baseball cards, liquor store, you know, my personal brand, VaynerMedia, the investments I've made, selling a book. I'm always in project mode operating. I've, you know, from the day I started working, I've been running a company, becoming GaryVee and all that stuff. There's never been a day where GaryVee has been my business. Every day since May of 1998, I've been running Wine Library or VaynerMedia, all of them. Every single day in continuum. So, yeah, I mean, to me, if you're one of those 13%, for all the 13% that are listening, if you're still not married, or by the way, if you're married, you may want to consider divorce. I'm being really serious here, because you're not doing yourself a favor and you're not doing your partner a favor. If you are not blindly supported, you will suffocate and die. It will not work. It just will not work. It's the same reason I give kids advice to tell them to go, to their parents to go fuck themselves when they want to tell them what to do in their 20s. Not because I'm like rogue or I'm trying to be popular or create a viral piece of content. It's because when they're 47, they're gonna hate their parents. And so if you're doing what your parents want you to do because you love them, you're just appeasing the short term because you're gonna end up having no relationship.
Yeah. When you started having kids, did the obsession for business stay the same?
No.
Or did it increase?
Probably.
Or did it go down?
It definitely didn't go down.
Yeah. So the obsession has stayed the same since you were, whatever, 12, 13, 15, to getting married, to having kids. It stayed the same, or has it gotten stronger?
I think the greatest way to be selfless is to be selfish. I mean, I just don't care about political correctness on like what I'm supposed to be doing. I don't know what else to tell you. Like, I know who I am and I know how I can bring the most value to the 12 people I care the most about. And that means me being day in and day out, second and second happy. And that comes in the form of caring about my craft.
Yeah, yeah. What's been the biggest challenge for you since starting Vayner and just the transition out of Wine Library? What's been the biggest thing you've had to overcome?
You know, it's been pretty damn good. I think, look, I think VaynerMedia and VaynerX, the holding company that owns PureWow and VaynerMedia and the other things I'm about to do, has been a pretty good run. I think the one thing that sucks is having clients, not being, you know, when I owned my own business, when I ran my dad's business, I was the boss. People were trying to sell wine to me to sell to other people. Thus, I had the leverage in the B2B environment. VaynerMedia, I'm the reverse. Like, you know, Chase is my client. Budweiser's my client. I'm on their time. And I'm fancy now. Like, I shouldn't be in a place in my career at 42 with my net worth and like all this stuff where I'm at, where I'm like at the beg and call and like have to be late for something that I don't want to be late for because a client's yelling at me about being mad about something. But I chose the profession and I have the humility in the prime of my career to be in it. So the biggest challenge is like, I'm over myself and I have the humility to run a client service business. I'd be lying if I didn't say, like, when I'm dealing with something like that, I'm like, what the fuck? You know, I'm like making fun of myself to myself. I'm like, the fact, like, when I have the anxiety that I have to call a client tomorrow for them to yell at me and say I suck shit when they're a fucking idiot and I'm gonna be the greatest of all time, that's a little weird.
Right.
Like, you have that conversation with yourself of like, why am I like, what am I doing here? Like, you know, like when I can make more money just being GaryVee than I can running VaynerX, and I'm dealing with 7 meetings in a row where people are complaining about other people within the building, and I'm like, you know, playing, you know, guidance counselor. I like that because I want to make people's lives better within my company. But there are days, and I eat shit for a living, but there are days where I'm like, why am I doing this when I have a million options not to? So then you start asking yourself,
why are
like,
you doing it?
Because I think I'm holding my breath for the bigger win. I think that I'm going to build the greatest communications holding company of all time. I think I'm going to then buy brands, and I think I'm going to run them through this machine, this Death Star, and I think I'm going to buy vans for $874 million one day when it's on the downside, because right now it's not. It's in the prime spot. But again, when it's on the downside in 7 years where none of the kids care or people care, I'm going to buy it and I'm going to flip it for $4 billion, and it's going to be because I ate shit for 20 years. My plan is to build a platform that is there for me to help Pencils of Promise, something we're both passionate about, help, you know, Crohn's disease with AJ, help what takes my parents' lives, help if you decide to run for governor of California in 30 years, help that. You know, whatever I'm passionate about, and also sell sneakers and hats and hoodies and books. And you know, I needed to build this machine for myself for the rest of my life, and so I'm willing to eat shit right now to build it, because it will make the 50 next years really exciting.
If you want more greatness in your life, then you got to check out this video right here.
You know, I think I'm very affected by the fact that my dad wasn't around until I was 14, and that meant I worked at the store and got to see him. So I lived in an extreme work-life balance scenario that I grew up with, which probably gives me comfort. I was talking to one of my buddies whose dad was home at 5 o'clock every night, and it's foreign to him. And so I